Certainly, I'm very humbled to be standing before veterans of this wonderful country, and I'll do my best to give you what you deserve. I'm your Morristown County Sheriff Jim Gannon. It's almost impossible to express the magnitude of what veterans mean to the United States. The men and women who have been willing to leave the comfort of their homes, to risk their lives to fight for our freedom and to help protect innocent people in other war-torn countries. Now, there are an estimated 18.2 million veterans living here in the United States. How do we thank them? How can we help those veterans who may be homeless, who may be unemployed, or suffer post-traumatic stress disorder and other debilitating physical and psychological injuries? I suggest we open our heart. Government programs and non-profit agencies and veterans organizations like the American Legion, which just turned 100 on March 15th this year. You support the Veterans of Foreign War organizations. You support the Wounded Warrior Project. That service organization started for wounded veterans in military action taken after September 11th. We're here on the Green in Morristown, where General George Washington was headquartered from January 6th through May 28, 1777, during the Revolutionary War. The Army's the oldest branch of the United States Armed Forces. A Continental Army was established by the Continental Congress on June 14, 1775. Then the Navy and Marines were formed later in 1775. The Coast Guard was formed in 1915. Followed by the Air Force in 1947. George Washington made his headquarters at the Jacob Arnold Tavern. Other buildings and churches in Morristown were used by Washington's Continental Army during the 1777 winter encampment. The tavern owner, Jacob Arnold, who was actually a Morris County Sheriff, served in the Revolutionary War as a captain of his own troop of light horse cavalry in the Morris County Militia. General Washington and his army returned again to Morristown in the winter of 1779-1780 for their second encampment during the Revolutionary War. This time the Fort Mansion was used as Washington's headquarters from December 1, 1779 through June 23, 1780. 12,000 soldiers built their own huts to exact specifications a few miles away in Jockey Hollow. It was an exceptionally brutal winter when soldiers went for days without food and gnawed on black birch bark. Here at the Green stood the first courthouse and jail that served during the American Revolution until 1827, when a new courthouse was built where it stands today on Washington Street. The Baptist and Presbyterian churches on the Green served as Revolutionary War hospitals and burial grounds, 1777, 1778. The remains of those soldiers, many of whom died of smallpox, ultimately were removed and reinterred at Evergreen Cemetery in Morristown. On the beautiful grounds of the Green, right where we're standing, are sculptures. One is the group of life-size statues of George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, and the Marquis de Lafayette, called the Alliance. The Alliance statue depicts the moment that Lafayette told Washington and Hamilton on May 10, my birthday, 1780, in Morristown, that the French were coming to help support the American fight for freedom from England. The other sculpture atop the fountain on the Green, called Patriots Farewell, is of a militiaman saying goodbye to his wife and son. Because we live in modern times, there's almost a romantic or quaintness attached to the presence 245 years ago of George Washington and his troops in Morristown. We joke, George Washington slept here. But his were the first organized troops in our country, surviving and fighting without the sophisticated weapons of war, often without food in frigid weather, wearing ragged clothing and boots without soles, without Skype and the internet to keep in touch with family. If you look at timelines of United States government military operations since the Revolutionary War, you see that scarcely a year or two has gone by where armed forces have not been involved in a conflict or full-scale war. The War of 1812, fights in the 1830s in the Falkland Islands, in Indonesia, in Argentina, and Peru. We had U.S. forces protecting Texas against Mexico, and then the Mexican-American War between 1846 and 1848. We had U.S. forces protecting Texas against Mexico, and then the Mexican-American War. There was the American Civil War of 1861 to 1865. Conflicts through the latter part of the 1800s in Japan, Panama, China, Uruguay. The Spanish-American War in 1898. The Philippine-American War from 1899 to 1913. Certainly World War I, when the United States declared war with Germany on April 6, 1917, and with Austria-Hungary in December 1917. World War II, with the United States involvement from 1941 through 1945. The Korean War, the Vietnam War, conflicts with Lebanon, with North Korea, with Iran, the Persian Gulf, Panama, Libya. Operation Desert Storm, 1991. Now, putting aside any philosophical differences of whether American involvement in any war was right or wrong, we have veterans to thank for risking their lives for us. And many, many veterans have been involved in humanitarian efforts. Operation Provide Promise, 1992 through 1996, with humanitarian relief operation in Bosnia and Herzegovina during the Yugoslav wars. Operation Provide Comfort from 1991 through 1996, with the delivery of humanitarian relief and military protection for Kurds fleeing their homes in northern Iraq. And the searing atrocious acts on September 11, 2001 that led to the War on Terror beginning in October 2001 with Operation Enduring Freedom, when U.S. Armed Forces invaded Afghanistan to find Al-Qaeda. For the last nearly 300 years, veterans have been defending American freedoms to ensure that our lives can be lived peacefully. According to the Brookings Institute, 3.3 million Americans have served in the armed forces since September 11, 2001. Approximately 6,920 have died, and nearly 53,000 service members have been wounded in action since September 11. The Department of Defense reports that more than 380,000 have sustained traumatic brain injuries while serving since 9/11. The toll on servicemen and women can be unbearable, and we must never forget that. Military veterans are amongst the most noblest of our society. If you've never sacrificed your own time and freedom as they have, you can't fully understand what they have been through, but you can appreciate and support them. I'm proud to say that the Morristown Sheriff's Office currently employs 34 veterans who bring an immeasurable level of discipline, leadership skills, and inner strength. I currently have 4 deployed in harm's way right now, and I remember them in my prayers every day. In closing, Veterans Day was formerly known as Armistice Day. A law was passed in 1938 to honor the end of World War I, which officially took place on November 11, 1918. Armistice Day originally was designated to honor World War I veterans. But by 1954, after World War II and the Korean War, Congress amended the Act of 1938 by striking out the word armistice and inserting the word veterans, so the holiday honors all American veterans of all wars. You deserve all our thanks and respect. It's impossible to imagine what America might be without your dedication to freedom. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America.